I haven't put a video out there on my channel for a while, so I figured I would, because yesterday I was doing my laundry, and when I went to pick up my laundry, I pulled into a parking spot, and I looked on the ground in the space beside me, and there was this coin reflecting at me. So I got out of the car, I went and picked up the coin, put it in my pocket, and didn't look at it until later, got my laundry. And then last night, I pulled the coin out of my pocket, and I always look at money before I spend it. I look at it. I've always done that, even when I was a little kid. Always look at your money first. And so this coin has the date 1890 on the top, the state of Idaho outlined, like an image of the state. It has a bird on it, and below it the date is 2007. So I'm looking at the coin because everything triggers something else with me. And so the year 2007 triggers the year in which they did their PINS petition on my son and started that whole roll into the juvenile justice system, and later on, he ended up in jail and prison, and, spent a good chunk of the remaining, a lot of fucking years because of that school putting a PINS petition on him, away from me and locked up somewhere. So I missed out on all this quality time with my son. It's huge, monumental. I can't get over it. I'm never going to be able to, it will never reconcile with me, okay? So that's 2007. My grandson, my firstborn grandchild, was born in the year 2007. My dog Bullet, she was born in 2007. I had her for over 15 years, so that's like huge for me. Part of my everyday life, no longer here. Physically with me, spiritually, I know she's with me. I know, she's beside me every step of the way. But the 1890 brings me to 1990, which was when my second child was born. And the state, Idaho, triggers like a huge memory related to my daughter. And like a really traumatic event that occurred. She must have been 5 weeks old. My oldest daughter was 2 years old. And we're making a trip from South Dakota to New York. And we have to stop in the state of Idaho to get gas on our way through. And, the crux of my life was driving the car. And I was a passenger. Both my kids were in the back seat. My infant was in her car seat. My daughter, my 2-year-old, was in her booster seat, if I remember. And so we pull up to the pumps, and we're all just sitting there. And I said, I'm going to check the baby. Then me and Amanda are going to go into the store so she can go potty, because we're right here. Might as well get the potty, the potty breaks taken care of. And I'm going to get her some snacks so we can just, keep buzzing through. So I check the baby. I'm like, she's fine. She's sleeping right now. The windows were already cracked. The doors were already unlocked, okay? For us to get out, the doors had to be unlocked. So I take my daughter Amanda into the store. I take her into the bathroom. We both go to the bathroom. We come out. We get a couple snacks. We pay for our snacks. On the way out, I see that she had picked up a pack of juicy fruit gum off the shelf that I didn't pay for, so I made her take it back to the cashier. I get outside, the crux, okay, the fucking crux is standing there a short distance from the car, smoking a cigarette. And I said, so I go up to the car and I go to open the door and the door's unlocked. So I'm like checking the doors. All the doors are locked. All the windows are up. I check my daughter. She's still sleeping at the time. I go to him. I go, unlock the fucking doors. What do you mean unlock the doors? The doors aren't locked. I go, unlock the fucking doors. The doors aren't locked. Like he's playing this fucking game with me. So I go over and I flick every one of the handles. I go, the doors aren't locked? Then what the fuck is this? What, and I go from door to door. The doors are fucking locked. Unlock the fucking car. He goes, I don't have the keys. Don't you have the keys? I go, why would I have the keys? You were driving. You were the last one behind the wheel. You had the fucking keys. Why would I take the keys? Well, I don't have the keys. You must have the keys. I don't have the keys. He's playing this game. It's 110 degrees out. I keep going, while I'm talking to him and I'm like looking at my baby. Finally, I got fed up with his gameplay. I ran into the store, cut the line, slapped my hands on the countertop, and I said, I need help right now. I said, my infant baby, she's only a couple weeks old, she's in the back seat. The windows are rolled up, the doors are locked. I can't get in the car. I need somebody to help me. And the lady's like, well, I don't know how I can help you. I'm like, can you call the cops? And she said, yeah, we can call the cops for you, honey. They probably know a locksmith. We didn't have cell phones back then, okay? So she calls the cops. She gets me on the phone with the cops. I'm like frantic telling him what's going on. He makes a call, I guess, on the way because short distance from him when he pulled in, a locksmith pulled in behind him. He checks the situation out, says he doesn't want to break the glass because the baby's in there. He tells the locksmith to go for it. Locksmith opens up the door. The first thing the cop does is he opens up all the doors to get air in there. And at this time, while I'm waiting for the cop, my daughter wakes up in the back seat, and she's in the back seat going, like, I'll never forget, her crying and her quivering of her lips, like she's like in distress. And so he checks her, the cop does, and he said, she's fine, just let the air flow through. I need you to stand aside over here for a few minutes. And then he tells him to stand aside because this is not normal, okay? This is not fucking normal. And so he's like, I'm going to check the car to see where the keys are. So he goes through the car, he checks the ignition, underneath the seats, everywhere in the car, and he says, the keys are not in the car. Are you sure this is your car? I'm like, yeah, it's our car. Like, look at, the registration and stuff's right in the glove box. You can pull it out. So then he tells me, go ahead and pick up your baby. She probably needs you to hold her right now. So I get her out of the car seat and I'm holding her outside. He's having me and my two daughters stand in over on one side, and then he goes and he talks to the crux to see what's going on. The keys aren't in the car, and if she doesn't have the keys on her person, and you don't have the keys, we're trying to figure out how did that baby get locked in the back in that car with all the windows up. So he had the keys in his pocket the whole fucking time. This is called not only gaslighting, but this is called, it's got to be narcissistic sociopath type behavior, where he's just standing there watching a scene that he created unravel, okay? While I'm under distress, my children are under distress, and there's a likelihood that my newborn baby could have died in the backseat of that car, okay? So that coin in itself triggers this memory of my daughter, who now, I don't have a relationship with my daughter anymore because of other events. Heartbreaking events where I used to be very, very close to all of my kids. But it also triggers the memory, almost like these communities, that low life, haha, let's make fun of a prior traumatic event that occurred where we have gained knowledge. Now, let's make fun of that situation by repeating it some way, okay? So then it triggers the July 4th, 2019 event where I just pulled up on the 4th of July right in front of the sub shop in Wegmans Geneseo to run into the sub shop to get a sub for me and my dog, and I left my dog in the back seat with the windows rolled up, knowing that I have the history of him, and I know how he gets panic attacks. I know that he's had historical problems with his ears. I know everything about him because I've had him since the day he was born, okay? And then I come out, and what happens? Some twit who probably had advanced knowledge on a prior event calls the cops instead of doing the less expensive to the taxpayer route by walking in the store and having somebody paged. Or better yet, I never leave my doors locked when my dog's in the car. The doors were unlocked. You're so fucking concerned, open the fucking door up. And then the beat down and the mental hygiene arrest and all this other shit that happened on the 4th of July 2019, also that they could on the next day arrest me for allegedly assaulting an officer and kicking him in the balls. That never happened because they made that fucking story up, because these people, these twits, these uneducated, not carrying any knowledge or wisdom with them in the position of authority type people, play fucking games with other people's lives, okay? So they can lock me up after they get me out of the R wing and serve me an eviction notice where they later take not only my dogs but all my personal belongings, including the baby books of my children. I mean, this is how the triggering of a single object or an item with dates on it or images on it have effect on people such as myself that have experienced long-term, ongoing, never stop trauma with an individual that I've tried numerous times to separate myself throughout all these years, get him out of my fucking life. Because there's something wrong with him, not me. Do you understand what I'm saying? They focus so much of their energy and attention on me, when in all reality, the person that is getting away with all of these things, he has probably got away with murder. I would not doubt it very much. If their highlighted case in Livingston County, this Tammy Jo Alexander, I would not be surprised if the crooks actually killed her. And that's the one he's talking about when he was back in the military, when I was serving during that time frame, and he was crying, gonna jump out a fucking bathroom window because he killed someone and his mother covered it up for him in Livingston County. Like, he tried to commit suicide while he was in the fucking military. And I had to watch guard while they went and got the medics, or whatever the fuck they were called. I had to stand in the men's dormitory. And while he's like, pretty much hanging out of a fucking window getting ready to jump. And you know what I said to him? I didn't even fucking know this guy back then. You know what I said to him? I'm like, go ahead and jump. Worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to break a few legs, maybe an arm. We're only 2 floors up. Do you think you're going to kill yourself 2 floors up? No. So go ahead and jump. That's what I said to him. And when he decided, oh yeah, you're right, and came back, I should have let the fucker jump. I should have pushed him out the fucking window while I was in the military. And when he crawls out from the window space, do you know what he says? He's crying. You don't understand. I can't deal with it. I killed somebody back home and my mom covered it up. That's what he said. And I said, oh yeah, well, who did you kill? And that's when the, medics and stuff came in. And then he wanted to know what my name was, Tammy. That's a nice name. I bet that's who he killed. Didn't you kill her? Isn't what all of this shit is all about? You little narcissistic sociopath, fucking never-ending crux abuser with me and my children. Isn't that what this is all about? I mean, somebody really needs to. I'm sure over all this time they've had plenty of time to cover up the true facts of it, considering that your brother is a police officer and that your cousins and your nephews and all those other people are police, because you can't face the truth. You have psychological issues in your family that are not being addressed, and so you're pushing them back on me. So to wrap this all up, I just want to say, and I do remember after we left and the police officer said that he was gonna make a report, and he asked me if I felt like I was safe enough to get back in that vehicle with him. And I said, no, I don't feel that I'm safe, but I have no choice because I'm quite a distance away from where I came from, up in Maine. And this is my only transportation for me and my kids, and I don't have the financial means to bring us anywhere else. And he said he'd make sure that it was reported and passed on to the next state over, just in case something happens along the way. And on the way, just to wrap it all up, I tried to keep my mouth shut for the safety and security of my 2 children riding in that car, knowing that I was with some psychopath. Because who the fuck does shit like that? Okay? Creates the event and watches it all fucking pan out under frantic fucking emergency mode, knowing that he's holding the keys the whole time, letting a little infant child scream in the back seat of the car. Who the fuck does shit like that? So on the ride, the continuation of the ride from that point forward, it was almost like I tapped my old belief system. And as the sun was setting over the horizon, I just started saying this: corn planters watching you. Corn planters watching you. And then I get louder and louder and louder, and finally I fucking swung my head in his direction and I said, corn planters watching you. And he freaked the fuck out. So that made me crazy by saying that, but what he did was fucking far from fucking normal. So he got to carry that story and mark me up as crazy with bypassing what he had done that day. Because it's more than just gaslighting. It was the attempt to harm, possibly murder, a child. And that's not it. That's not the rest of the story. And the story is a long fucking story to be told about that guy. Still walking around. Never been punished for anything. Never been held accountable for anything. He walks on water in Livingston County, New York. And they are, by all accounts of the world, all meanings known. True fucking dumbasses. I don't know how you get past trauma if you're never allowed to heal, because everything triggers a past experience, a past event. And so, I'm not willing to get medicated to get over this stuff. I want some type of justice, revenge, karma, placed in the right places where it deserves. Those people allowed him to continue the abuse, even when I told the courts the reason why I was getting separated and divorced from this guy. They allowed the continuation of abuse with me and my children. And that's what you taxpayers are paying for. Wake the fuck up, man. Wake the fuck up.